Chapter 6. Stress and Calm, Chronic War or Control. I don't avoid stress, I transform it. Stress is not an enemy, it's raw material, and you either forge strength from it or allow it to destroy you. Imagine a person who never feels stress. They never worry, never get nervous, nothing affects them. At first glance, an ideal state, but there's a catch. That person is dead. Because stress is life. It exists wherever there's meaning, a goal, risk, growth. I adopted one important principle. I don't avoid stress. I learned to transform it. Because avoiding stress is avoiding life itself, but turning it into a source of strength. That's the art of longevity. Stress as fuel. I fought stress for a long time. I had periods where I tried to arrange my life in a sterile way, to avoid everything that could throw me off balance. But each such attempt ended with even more stress. Because sterility doesn't guarantee peace, it's the calm before the storm. I understood, stress won't disappear, but it can change form. Today I perceive stress as raw energy, and it's up to me what I turn that energy into. Sometimes it's motivation, sometimes focus, sometimes a reason for deep re-evaluation, but never poison. The biology of stress, our ally. When we're stressed, the body triggers hormonal cascades, cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline. That's not evil. It's the survival system. I'm learning not to suppress these processes, but to redirect them. After a difficult conversation, I go out for a brisk walk. After unpleasant news, I open my notebook and write 3 pages of thoughts. After a conflict, I draw, even if it's just lines. In this way, I let the body discharge the build-up. Because unreleased stress is rust that corrodes from within. My formula for transforming stress. 1. Awareness. I honestly admit to myself, I am stressed right now. That alone is 50% of the battle. 2. Acceptance. I don't plaster on a smile. It's fine. Stress is normal. I'm not a robot. 3. Redirection into action. Stress is energy. I give it a direction. Exercise, creativity, analysis, conversation. 4th lesson. I ask myself, what did this stress show me? What did it teach me? It's not always easy, but each time it becomes more natural. Why this matters for longevity. Chronic stress kills slowly. That's not a metaphor, but medical fact. It erodes blood vessels, the heart, the brain, the hormonal system. But conscious, managed stress stimulates. It's precisely under stress that we develop endurance, flexibility, adaptability, all needed for a long, full life. In my longevity protocol, stress isn't crossed out, it's understood. Balance, calm is not the absence of stress, but the ability to hold it. My ideal isn't total silence. My ideal is inner silence in the midst of a storm. I train this every day, through breathing, through rituals, through creating a safe inner space, because stress is external and control is internal. Conclusion: don't run from stress. Look it in the eye. I don't run anymore. I don't build a fortress. I don't create the illusion of positive thinking that shatters at the first crisis. I'm learning to live alongside stress, like with a wild beast that can be tamed. It's a difficult game, but it's worth it. A conversation with yourself, not with the TV or others' emotions. Who doesn't converse with themselves becomes a victim of others' conversations. After I learned not to run from stress, but to transform it, the next task arose. How not to let it return again and again, wearing others' faces, others' voices, others' dramas. This section is about the most valuable skill for a calm, long and conscious life, the ability to talk with yourself, not with the TV, the phone, or the flood of other people's emotions. Why this is important. Today's world is an endless exchange of thoughts, emotions, tantrums, news. We constantly absorb someone's state, someone's energy, someone's drama. And the less we talk with ourselves, the louder the outside world screams at us. But here's the truth. No external voice knows what you need. Only your inner voice does. It's quiet, barely audible, but incredibly precise. That voice is the core of your longevity protocol, because only the person who doesn't forget to listen to themselves lives long. The TV and others' emotions, new addictions. I have often observed how many people, after a hard day, sit down in front of the TV or mindlessly scroll through their phone. Their brain wants rest, but gets noise. Their heart wants clarity, but gets another serving of emotional mush. And crucially, no one pauses to ask themselves, how do I feel? What do I actually want? It's a silent suicide of the soul, and it steals not years, but the quality of life. And quality is the basis of longevity, how I bring myself back to myself. I developed a simple but effective system of daily internal dialogue for myself. Here are a few questions I ask myself every day, unhurriedly, without noise, without outside background. 1. What am I truly feeling right now? 2. What's worrying me? Is this worry mine, or did someone impose it on me? 3. What thoughts have I been thinking for 3 days straight, and why? 4. Am I living my own day, or playing a role in someone else's script? 5. What made me a little wiser or happier today? These questions are like a compass. They don't solve every problem, but they bring me back to myself. And that is the main thing. A space without noise, my home. I created a space for myself with no screens. My morning rule, the first hour after waking, no phone, no news, no outside voices. During this time I walk, I think. Sometimes I jot down on paper whatever's swirling in my mind, because the best conversations happen on paper. I'm not against news. I'm not against technology, but I believe first comes my own heart, my own voice, my own center, and only then the rest of the world. Results that change life. When I began talking with myself daily, a few things happened. I became less fatigued, because my brain no longer spends energy on needless analysis of the external. I began to understand what I want much better, and to make decisions faster. I became calmer. Other people's anxieties no longer stick to me, because I have my own protected emotional space. And most importantly, I became my own friend, and that is the most important form of self-love. Conclusion: if not you, then who? The world speaks to you constantly, but if you don't respond to yourself, you stop hearing yourself. And without that, not only is longevity impossible, life as such is impossible. A walk, silence, herbs, the ideal antidepressant. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. After the internal conversation I described in the previous section, I became even more aware. The body also wants to speak, but not in the language of words, in the language of touching the earth, the rustle of leaves, the aroma of wild herbs. And that's when I realized that the best antidepressant is not a pill, not escaping into TV series, not a motivational speech on YouTube, but a simple, honest, living walk. In silence, among the grasses, without a plan. It's not an escape from life, it's a return to it. Walking as meditation in motion, I began going out from home for no particular reason, not to hit 10,000 steps, not to burn calories, but to allow myself to be. When you walk, slowly, mindfully, with the sensation of each step, the brain changes mode. The gamma waves of anxiety fall silent. In their place appears rhythm, flow, peace. In these moments, I'm not thinking with my mind, but with my legs. Each step unravels an inner knot, one loop at a time. Silence. It's not the absence of sound. I once was afraid of silence. It seemed it would expose those thoughts I was running from. And indeed, silence lays everything bare. But that's why it's healing. In silence, you begin to hear yourself, and God, and the answer. True silence isn't where there's no noise, but where you stop reacting to it. I found this silence both in the forest and in the park, even in my own kitchen early in the morning when everyone at home was still asleep. A few minutes of silence each day, and it's as if I returned to myself, collected myself, and this was real prevention of the exhaustion that steals years from people's lives. Herbs that remember who we are. I'm not a phytotherapist, but I intuitively sensed the body not only wants to walk and breathe, but also to drink something real. So I began adding simple, ancient, time-proven plants into my life. Lemon balm relieves anxiety. Thyme calms the breath. Chamomile relaxes both body and mind. St. John's wort, a natural mood tonic. Mint cools an overheated mind after a stressful day. This is no panacea, but it's gentle support. It's like a conversation with a wise grandmother who doesn't give any advice, but simply pours you a warm infusion. And you somehow remember that everything is all right. A simple restoration ritual. I created a ritual for myself that has now become my personal antidepressant without side effects. 1. 20 minutes of walking in nature without a phone. 2. 10 minutes of silence, sitting on a bench, on the ground, or at home by an open window. 3. A warm infusion of favorite herbs. All this takes less than an hour, but it gives me strength for a whole day, and sometimes for an entire week. Conclusion, return to base. A walk, silence, herbs. These are simple things. Primitive, a modern mind might think, but they connect us to ourselves and to life. Because life isn't in the rush, not in the feeds, not in the fatigue. Life is in what is alive around us right now, and it quietly whispers, I am your antidepressant. Just step outside. How to survive in a world where everyone is shouting and not lose yourself. I'm not afraid of the world's noise. I'm worried when I stop hearing myself. After walks and silence, I began to feel clearly how the loud world tries to drag me back into the whirlpool of hustle. My email screams, my phone screams, people on social media scream, wars scream, politicians, advertisements, even others' good intentions. All of it is a veritable acoustic war for my attention, energy, and emotional resource. And I know if I don't learn to survive in this noise, I will lose myself. And that means I'll lose my health, and my peace, and my chance at a long, conscious life. That's why this section isn't just about strategies. It's about the survival of a person who wants to keep themselves real in the era of information overload. When everyone is shouting, don't shout back. The biggest trap for modern people is the desire to respond, to prove, to justify themselves, to win a war of words. But every such victory is a loss on a deeper level. When I argue with someone's aggression, I let it inside me. When I react emotionally to another loud news story, I open a window through which my peace is stolen. I learned something different. Not to be silent, but to be silent correctly. Not to surrender, but to step out of the game. My silence is not capitulation, it's strategy. Detox from shouting, my personal protocol. Here's a simple principle I began to apply when I feel everything around is buzzing. 1. Stop. If something is trying to force me to react immediately, I first pause. Even for 10 seconds, these are micro pauses of survival. 2. Breathe in, breathe out, ask. I ask myself, is this truly mine? Do I need this right now? If the answer is no, I don't go further. 3. Silence instead of reaction. In most cases, the wisest answer is silence. Not an emotional, not a passive silence, but a strong silence from within. This isn't running away from life, it's returning to myself. Become a quiet pillar in a noisy crowd. Once I imagined myself in the middle of a plaza where everyone is yelling, arguing, shoving, and I just stand there. Simply stand, without yelling, without anger, without fear. And that silence began to spread, from me to others. Perhaps you felt it. Sometimes one calm person in a room is enough to clear the space of tension. In a world where everyone wants to outshout another, the person who doesn't shout holds true power. Radical attention, the new luxury. I limited my news intake. I left the urgent alert group chats. I turn off notifications. I consciously leave space for myself, not for reactions. It was hard, because I was afraid of missing something important. But what turned out to be truly important? My pulse, my clarity, my ability to think freely. Conclusion, in noise, the loudest does not survive. My personal longevity protocol isn't just about the body, but also about informational hygiene. Because if I let the world scream inside me, I have no chance for a calm heart, a clear head, or a long life. Silence is my choice, calm is my strategy, Ignoring is my strength.